It was a Friday night in 1962. You had finished your work week, picked up your girl, and drove out to that magical place on the edge of town. A place where the sky was the ceiling, and the stars shared space with Hollywood dreams. Tonight, we're going to remember the drive-in theaters, those open-air cathedrals where America fell in love, laughed and dreamed under a sky full of stars. But before we dive into those memories, if you remember those magical nights at the drive-in, hit that like button below. And if you want to keep reliving those special places that marked our lives, subscribe to the channel so you don't miss the next videos. Do you remember the first time you saw that giant screen rising against the evening sky? For many of us, the drive-in wasn't just a theater. It was an American ritual, a piece of our youth we still carry in our hearts today. At 5:30 on a Saturday afternoon, you were already getting ready. Maybe you polished that 57 Chevy Bel Air, or that Ford Fairlane that was your pride and joy. You checked if you had enough gas, adjusted the rearview mirror, and the excitement already started on the way there. Because going to the drive-in was an experience that began long before you parked in front of that massive screen. When you arrived, you passed through the ticket booth, usually a small wooden cabin where a friendly attendant charged about $1 per car. $1. And that covered however many people could fit inside. Some families brought half a dozen kids in the back seat, all in pajamas, ready for the adventure of the night. Do you remember the smell? That unmistakable mix of freshly cut grass, buttery popcorn drifting from the snack bar, and maybe a hint of gasoline and oil from the cars around you. It was the smell of the American summer. It was the smell of freedom. Finding the perfect spot was an art every drive-in regular mastered. Not too close to the screen. You didn't want to break your neck looking up all night. Not too far back, where the screen looked like a postage stamp and you missed half the action. And definitely not behind that guy with the huge Cadillac blocking everyone's view. It had to be the sweet spot. That perfect place you learned to find with experience. And then came the moment. You grabbed that heavy metal speaker, all painted gray, and carefully hung it on the half-open window of your car. Remember the weight of it? The coiled cord? The static hiss before the sound came through? You adjusted the volume, tested it, and when you finally heard that waiting music play, you knew. The night had officially begun. Some of you probably forgot to take the speaker off before driving away at least once. That awful sound of metal tearing from the post, the cable stretching and you slamming the brakes with your heart pounding. Don't worry, we all did that. It was almost a rite of passage. Before the movie started, there was that precious waiting time. The sun setting, painting the sky orange and pink. Kids running between the cars, playing in those little playgrounds some drive-ins had in front of the screen. Adults chatting through car windows, greeting neighbors and friends. It was a community, a piece of America gathering under the open sky, between the two movies. Because there were always two, remember? A double feature, always. You'd head to the snack bar. That bright building in the middle of the parking lot was like a glowing oasis in the dark. The lines were long, winding out the door, but nobody complained. It was part of the fun, part of the experience. You'd see familiar faces, exchange comments about the first movie, laugh at the jokes. Hot dogs with mustard and relish served piping hot in those soft buns, juicy hamburgers with melted cheese dripping down the sides, that fresh popcorn made with real butter, not that microwave stuff we have today, served in big paper bags that left your hands greasy. And of course, the milkshakes, chocolate, vanilla, strawberry, served in those thick paper cups that turned icy cold in your hand and started to sweat from the chill. For the kids who came along with their parents, there were candy buttons on colorful strips of paper, bonbons, and caramel candies that stuck to your teeth. You'd accidentally eat a bit of the paper, and you didn't care one bit. When you came back to the car with your arms full of food, the second movie was about to begin. You settled in, handed out the snacks, and waited. And then, when the lights went out completely, and that bright cone of light beamed from the projection booth behind you, cutting through the night like a lighthouse guiding the way to dreams, it was pure magic. You could see the dust and insects dancing in that column of light, and somehow that made it all feel even more special. You watched unforgettable films in those places. Maybe it was where you first saw a John Wayne Western, with those epic landscapes looking even grander on that giant screen under the stars. Maybe it was the war movies that reminded you of the friends who served by your side, or of your own days in uniform. Or maybe it was the comedies that made the entire parking lot erupt in synchronized laughter. Hundreds of people laughing together in the dark. But let's be honest, it wasn't always about the movie, was it? The drive-in was where you took your girlfriend on your first date, where you finally worked up the courage to put your arm around her shoulders for the first time, pretending you were just stretching. Where you stole that first kiss as the screen exploded in vibrant colors and the dramatic music masked the racing of your heart. It was where you took your wife for a rare moment together, away from the responsibilities of home and kids. Though, of course, the kids often came along. It was where entire families went, with little ones in pajamas in the back seat, fighting to stay awake, but inevitably falling asleep before the second movie ended, lulled by the muffled sound of the film and the gentle sway of the car as the wind blew outside. It was where teenagers got their first taste of freedom, going out with friends without parents around, feeling grown up and independent. It was where friendships were strengthened and memories were made, one night at a time. In the 50s and 60s, there were more than 4,000 drive-ins scattered across America. They were everywhere, in every small town and on the outskirts of every big city. They were part of the fabric of American life, as common as gas stations or diners. But then, gradually, something changed. Television entered every home, first in black and white, then in glorious color. Suddenly, you didn't need to leave your house to see a movie. Shopping malls began to rise with their air-conditioned multiplexes, offering comfort and convenience. Land prices skyrocketed, and those wide-open spaces became too valuable to sit empty 6 nights a week. One by one, like candles being blown out on a windy night, they began to close. The giant screens were taken down, those steel structures that once seemed so permanent, so eternal. The speaker posts were ripped out, leaving only holes in the ground. The snack bars were demolished or abandoned. Those magical places became shopping center parking lots, residential developments, or simply empty lots overgrown with weeds, where, for a while, you could still see the faint outline of where the cars once parked. Today, fewer than 300 drive-ins remain across the country. Some hold on bravely, kept alive by passionate owners who refuse to let the tradition die, and by communities that still cherish that unique experience. Some have modernized, replacing the old metal speakers with FM radio transmission. Others have kept everything exactly as it was, time capsules frozen in 1965. The drive-in theater was more than just a place to watch movies. It was a piece of American culture, as important as baseball or county fairs. It was a democratic space where the executive and the factory worker parked side by side, where everyone was equal under that starry sky, where families made memories that would last for generations, where young people became adults and adults became young again for a few hours. It was a place that belonged to the American summer night, as essential as the song of the cicadas, the flicker of fireflies, and the taste of cold lemonade on a hot day. It was freedom, romance, community, and entertainment, all wrapped up in one unforgettable experience that was never truly replicated, no matter how far technology has advanced. So the next time you drive past an empty field on the edge of town, or a large, mysterious parking lot, maybe take a moment to stop, close your eyes, and listen with your heart. If you listen closely, you might still hear the echo of distant laughter, the metallic clink of those old speakers, the faint voices of the movies drifting on the night breeze, and the soundtrack of our youthful dreams playing softly in the wind. Because some places never truly disappear, no matter how many years pass, or how many buildings rise where they once stood. They live on in the memories of those who loved them, of those who made stories in those magical places. And as long as there's someone who remembers, someone to tell those stories, they will live forever. If these memories touched your heart, if you too miss those simpler times, leave a comment below sharing your favorite drive-in story. What movie did you see? Who were you with? Share those memories with us because each story is a precious piece of our collective history. And if you enjoyed this video, consider sharing it with old friends who also lived those moments, because sometimes a shared memory is worth more than gold. We have many more stories like this waiting for you here on the channel, places and moments that shaped our lives and deserve to be remembered. See you in the next video as we continue our journey through the America we knew and loved.